Hey, I'm Alex back from Board Game Co, and this is month in review for May. May's month in review? I guess so. We're in June now. Whenever I'm filming something for the prior month, I always get a little bit tripped up. Like, the whole game's leaving the collection. Eventually, I just called it the month I'm filming it in, not for the month the games are leaving in. But for a month in review, I don't think I can call it for June, so it has to be for May, even though it is filmed in June. Anyways, let's go ahead and move on with this. So, as usual, timestamps and links to everything down below that I talk about, but starting off the bat with these stats. We're going to be going through a few things today. We're going to be going through our board game stats for the month, the best videos from other creators, my own favorite videos on my channel, my favorite experiences I've had this month, the best new games this month. In fact, we have a new first in that category, which we'll talk about when we get there, as well as disappointments and all of those and more. Best crowdfunding highlights, all those things. So the timestamps are down below in case any particular section catches your eye. But with that, let's go ahead and start off first with stats. Board game stats. For the month of May, I played 127 plays. Not games, 127 plays across 51 different games. From those 51 different games, 17 are new to me, which once again reinforces I have been playing fewer new games than I used to. Last year, without even particularly trying to, I played more than a new game every single day, and I'm probably close to half that. No, more than half. Maybe 2/3 of that this year, although we'll see how the year continues. Things have been crazy, especially with moving and just trying to juggle everything all at once. But I expect to play plenty of new games all the time, and we'll see how it fares. But if I had to guess, I'd say I'm probably playing like 250 new games this year, as opposed to like the 396 I played last year. Let's see if we get to 300. Let's make it a goal to get to 300 new to me games this year. We'll try. We'll see how it goes. Anyways, 51 games played, 17 new games. I have an H index of 6 for the month. That means I played at least 6 games, at least 6 times each. For the year, I'll touch base with you later. I can't remember what I'm up to overall, but I'll touch base with you more towards the end of the year with an update on that. I don't cover that every single month. It wouldn't change that much. Anyways, as far as the games that I played at least 5 times each, I usually cover that in this category. We have So Clover. I got 5 plays of So Clover in, once again reinforcing that some games are easy to table. Like, one of the reasons I'm able to get 127 plays in a month, which granted is still light for me. It's better than the last 2 months, but it's lower than January and February. And like, I think 1 month last year I played over 200 games in the month. So you can have some crazy months, but some of that is definitely helped by playing games like So Clover, by playing games like Codenames. In fact, a lot of the games you'll see me playing 5 or more times usually are shorter, more accessible games. It's the very nature of them, although the game I played the most this month is slightly longer, but that is a different story. We'll get to that soon. Anyways, So Clover coming in with 5 plays. We have Flowers coming in with 7 plays. And by the way, I don't even own Flowers. I've been playing that exclusively on Board Game Arena. Although we'll talk about... No, I don't think we'll talk about more this month. We'll talk about it in a different video. Anyways, Flowers. I have 7 plays of Flowers logged. In general, when people ask how much do I play on BGA versus in person, I think usually, and it does depend month to month, but I think like the highest I ever was like 25%. Usually it's around 15% of my plays are on Board Game Arena. They're usually light filler games that go in the background, although sometimes I go on a bit of a burner and like, sit there and play 10 games of A Feast for Odin across a single week. That has happened, hasn't happened in a while. Right now, BJ is more of a distraction, a turn here, turn there, as opposed to my full, I'm going to sink hours into this. We have Codenames coming in with 7 plays, and that's not the last you're going to hear of Codenames today. We have My City Roll and Build coming in with 8 plays, although I think 4 of them, I think it's 12 plays to a session. I think I got 4 plays last month because I couldn't currently finish my arc that I'm in. We have 10 Days in the USA coming in with 8 plays. I've been playing a lot of that with my daughter. There should be a review on the channel at some point. It's an older game. It's an older game that the op re-released. I played all of them, like I don't know all. I played Japan, Europe, 10 Days in the USA, 10 Days in Africa. I think I played at least 4, maybe more, but I played at least 4 different ones back in the day. Although honestly, as much as I like the series, I don't see that strong of a need to own more than one. The variety is nice, but honestly, the game plays the same concept either way. It's helpful for learning more regions of the world. So 10 Days in the USA with 8 plays. We have Codenames Duet with 10 plays, which means if you combine the Codenames, we have 18 total plays of Codenames, but we're not combining the 17 total plays of Codenames, but we're not combining Codenames. And then lastly, we have Charterstone with 12 plays across a 3-day period. Got a gameplay of Charterstone with AP and Megan, just charging through it. I played Charterstone back in the day. I think it took me like 2 or 3 months to finish it, and we finished Charterstone in 3 days because we just got hooked on it. I don't even think it's the best game ever, but it is a good enough game that I've now finished twice. That's 24 total plays of Charterstone, which helps with the H indexes in general. Anyways, that's going to be the games I played this past month. As far as my favorite videos from other creators specifically. First of all, we have my favorite and least favorite games I played in April 2024. That's going to be coming to you from Tim Chun. We have that video. In general, I like people talking about their experiences, no differently than I'm talking to you about this right now. Seeing other channels do those kind of recaps where you can kind of, instead of having to focus on a single title, you can kind of get a sense of things all at once. I generally appreciate that. We have Counterfeit Games. This is actually put out by Game Nerds. Do I have 6 videos on my... I think I have 6 videos in my top 5 favorite videos, so I'm cheating there. But we have Counterfeit Games. This was put out by Game Nerds. They put out a video comparing the type of games you can get on Temu. In some cases, they were laughable, aka Splendor. In other cases, they were more interesting and nuanced, but it is worth noting there are counterfeit games out there, especially if you're buying them for like $11 from Temu. There's also the top 9 games yet to hit the top 100. This is from Neon Gorilla. He did, I talked about his channel last month, but he had another great video, top 9 games yet to hit the top 100. These are games where he thinks was a top 9. I think I got the title right. Bunch of games that are yet to hit the top 100. These are basically a bunch of games where he thinks they will be in the top 100, but they haven't gotten there yet. His logic across the board seems pretty on point. The only one I'd question at all is Final Girl, just because it's been out for a longer time. But he basically takes things that are popular enough, but haven't yet gotten that enough ratings to get there. But many of those games will be in the top 100. In fact, I once did a video of 10 games that should be in the top 100, and then I finally put the video up live 3 months later, because sometimes videos just sit there, and so 3 months later it went up, and like 4 of the games were now in the top 100. He titled his video better, top 9 games yet to hit the top 100, although I guess if he had waited, the same problem could have occurred. But then again, he was literally predicting they would be, because I was like, these games should be here, and some of them ended up being there pretty quickly, so egg on my face for that one. Then we have Too Many Games. Too Many Games. Tom Vassell from the Dice Tower put out a video of too many games, basically, which is just a conversation around how there's too many games in the space and how to navigate around that. And there are things I've talked about on the channel before, but the idea that, 7,000 plus games come out every single year right now, which is an insane number. Even by the time you actually like filter it down to good games, you still have over 500 games to play. Last year I played 396 games, and that is insane. And I still couldn't play everything that came out. So like, you're never going to play everything. And so Tom talked about the problem. I enjoy these kinds of videos. You suddenly get overwhelmed by so much stuff that you have to learn to let go. You have to learn to move on, to not overly involve yourself with everything. It's okay not to play every single game, he says, talking to himself more so than anyone else. And then lastly, we have 5 games to steal from Tim Chun, which is interesting because Tim Chun was already in this video. But nonetheless, we have the Board Game Buzz putting up a video of 5 games to steal from Tim Chun, which I always appreciate quirky video titles or approaches. And this is basically Tim did a video of his collection, and Carly decided she wanted to steal 5 of his games, so these are the 5. And she chose Vindication, by the way, which Vindication is an excellent choice. Highly recommend that one across the board. So good choice, Carly, and good taste, Tim. Although you'll have to get a new copy of Vindication. This is the big box. Get the big box. It's all good. Anyways, those are my favorite videos from other creators. Then we also have my best new games of the month. Now, I mentioned there is a first in this category, and there is indeed a first, which is I only have 4 games to talk about. Most of these categories, I try to get to 5 games, although I don't force myself to do so. If something is not a natural fit for a category, it's not a natural fit, which is why disappointments, I usually don't have 5 disappointments. I think 1 month ever since doing this series, I've had 5 disappointments. More often than not, I have 2, 3, maybe 4 disappointments. But in this case, that's true with best new games. For me to put something in the best new games, I have to like the game. I have to like really think it's a pretty decent game. And it doesn't, like, sure, I might pick the top 5, but it still has to be good enough that I'm like, not the best 5 games I played this month, but it has to be actually earn the title best. And I just don't think there were enough new games. Now keep in mind, I only played 17 new games, which means from those 17 new, 4 of them I'm like, these are the best new games I played this month. And the other 13, I'm like, enjoy them. They're probably 3.5s or 3s, like they're okay games, not a bad thing, but certainly not the best. And coming in at number 4, we have Flowers, which I mentioned already, so we are talking about Flowers more this video. Flowers, I enjoy it. I don't know if I'm going to bother owning it because I'm enjoying playing it on BGA just fine, but I think Flowers is a fun, quick little puzzle that falls into the category of many fun, quick little puzzles. You don't necessarily need this compared to many of these fun, quick little puzzles out there, but I do think Flowers is enjoyable, and it definitely falls into this spot over here. Coming in at number 3, we have Nature. Nature's an interesting one and a complicated one to go through because Nature, coming to you from, oh my gosh, the people who did Evolution. North Star Games, there we go, thank you. North Star Games did Evolution, and then they did Oceans, and now they're doing Nature, which builds upon that system again. It is a new iteration on that system, arguably my favorite one yet, although historically I hate saying that. I always hate when the newest version of a thing is my favorite one yet, because that just perpetuates the culture of hypeness around everything new, which is why I'm more excited when something new comes out and I'm like, it's okay, go to the old one. But sometimes the truth is, sometimes the new ones are better. In fact, you can make an argument that statistically speaking they should be, because they're building on the framework and the things they learned the first time around. I think in my case it's probably around 50-50, although that would be an interesting thing to look back at and see, but it would be hard to find that data. I'd have to like go through all my videos and see what could be eligible. Either way, sometimes the new things are better, sometimes they're not. In the case of Nature, I think it is better. But it is interesting because Nature is built on the Evolution system, and the Evolution system historically I've always enjoyed and always not kept. I don't know whether Nature falls in the category of keeping or not yet. I don't know, because it has the things I like in the system. You're playing, you're evolving your creatures, you're building up these species. It is friendly in the sense It's like a weird buzz. I can't tell what happened. Like, if you told me there was like a fly buzzing around there and something, I'd believe you, but it was a singular noise. Anyways, nature. So it builds upon the evolution system. I like what it does. It's very modular in its approach. My instinct is it still will not be a keeper for me because historically I have not kept this series of games. But I still do really like it. And again, my bars to keep games are just high because I play so many games, so I get to re-expose so many games, and I can only keep the games I realistically think I'll table, even if I enjoy them. But nature definitely earns a spot on this list. Next up, we have Jekyll vs. Hyde. That's staying at least for right now. Jekyll vs. Hyde, again, the first one on this list, I'm not even keeping. Flowers I'm not really getting, and nature, I'm going to try to keep it first, but I don't know if it'll be a keeper over time. But as we have Jekyll vs. Hyde. Jekyll vs. Hyde is a very enjoyable two-player trick-taking game. Really like that back and forth as far as the dynamic of trying to manage Jekyll and Hyde. Jekyll wants complete balance, and Hyde wants the opposite of balance. Whether he wins more or loses more, he's trying to basically have a shift in how balanced the game is across 3 rounds of play. Jekyll basically Hyde needs to go ahead and get a disbalance of 10 points across 3 rounds of play, which is an interesting challenge to go through. Overall, the puzzle works really well. I like it a lot. Jekyll vs. Hyde, solid two-player trick-taking game. There will be a review or comparison review video going up on the channel at some point, either before or after this video. And then lastly, we have Unstoppable. Unstoppable is another solid one. That's going to be coming to you from, oh my gosh, John D. Clear and Renegade Games. Unstoppable is going to be in their Simply Solo line, or their Solo Hero series. Simply Solo is button shy. Their Solo Hero series line of games, and Unstoppable has you building cards in a Slay the Spire-esque kind of build, get more powerful, deal with more powerful enemies, and eventually take down the boss kind of approach as you power yourself up. I really like it. In general with these games, the question is always going to be, where do you have time for anything? Like, I Slay the Spire, which I love. Will I play Unstoppable over Slay the Spire, or do Slay the Spire good enough? Slay the Spire, the board game. I have the video game too. But either way, Unstoppable is definitely a very solid game. It is better than Jekyll vs. Hyde, to be clear. The tricky part here is Jekyll vs. Hyde is more likely to stick around because I can see more opportunities where I'm going to play that. Unstoppable might be facing off against Slay the Spire. But for right now, definitely a keeper for right now. The fact that you can play it solo does mean it is more tableable. Anyways, as far as the disappointments of the month, we only have 3. First of all, and again, disappointments does not mean it's a bad game. It means I was hoping for more and didn't get more, ultimately. So usually it's not even necessarily bad, just so much as my own personal hopes for that game. Which number 3 is going to be Rebirth from Mighty Boards and Reina Knizia, which is a totally fine tile-laying game. I like Rebirth. I'll happily play Rebirth, but I guess, I don't know why. Like, the art, the company, the designer, I was kind of like, ooh, I really hope this is like a really solid one. And it's just a good tile-laying game. I enjoy it. Reina Knizia has so many in this category that ultimately it wasn't one that stuck out as much. It's definitely a little lighter friendly. Now, there is a caveat. The Ireland side of the board I haven't gotten to play because that wasn't in the prototype, and that might add more meat to the game, but I'm not really holding my breath. Ultimately, I think Rebirth is still a good game. Please do not take this disappointment to mean, like, don't back the game. If you want to back the game, like, you may well enjoy it, but it definitely is more on the lighter side. Now, if that scares you off, then by all means, it should, because, well, you should get the games that work for your tastes. Coming in number 2, we have Flames of Fafnir. This one gets a strong asterisk because Flames of Fafnir is currently in a weird place where I've played the prototype, and ultimately, as of right now, I'm not covering the prototype because the prototype is currently, in my opinion, not balanced. Flames of Fafnir is a dexterity game in which you're rolling marbles down from a dragon to basically mow down the village, and you're trying to build obstacles in the way that stop the things from happening. The game is a very interesting puzzle trying to build things up. There's a little bit of dexterity and a little bit of building and managing your own tableau while you try to get one ahead of the other players. Ultimately, the game in its current form is not balanced, and that, again, that's something that I'm communicating with Lucky Duck on it right now. They are changing and adapting things right now so they can hopefully have a new iteration of the prototype, and that might change how things are. I like the concept of the game. The concept of the game is very charming, which is why it's in disappointments, but the execution right now is not balanced. Now, again, it's tricky. I always debate including these types of things in these videos because, on the one hand, it's not fair. It's a prototype. They're working on it. Someone might see this video and think, well, I shouldn't get Flames of Fafnir. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that Flames of Fafnir's current iteration doesn't work, but it's also a prototype that's relying on dexterity elements. That is a very, very hard thing to do. The reason I do choose to talk about these things is because the reverse side is true as well. What happens if it does come out a year and a half from now, and it is horribly imbalanced, and it doesn't work, and I have the same experience with the final game that I have with the prototype? Well, then I feel like I wasn't transparent with you. I feel like I hid something from with you because hopefully it'll change, but then it didn't. So ultimately my solution in these cases is usually to talk about it and then to be as clear as I possibly can, which is what I'm trying to do right now. It is hopefully something that will be fixed or improved upon in some way, shape, or form. You may or may not see coverage on the channel from it. I don't know, because I don't really feel right covering the prototype in its current form. It's as much as I'm fine mentioning in this video, like a full video saying how this thing doesn't work, but hopefully it will be, it's complicated. So I don't know what will happen as far as my video coverage. I believe they are trying to make tweaks to the prototype, so that might help and change things. But ultimately where I am right now is I like the premise of the game. I hope it is a good game. I can't give you an honest opinion on the game right now because I haven't got to experience a balanced version of the game. But also, that's why it's a disappointment. And then number 3 is Gloomhaven Buttons and Bugs. Again, not a bad game, but I don't know, maybe small box games aren't for me. And by small box games, I don't mean things like button shy games. I mean games that take a big box experience and put it into a small box. Historically, those haven't landed for me. The entire Tiny Epic series, I have Tiny Epic Vikings, I like that. The rest of them have fallen flat for me. And even Tiny Epic Vikings, I'd still rather play Blood Rage, just so it's like, it's hard to say, but I find when you take a big experience and put it into a small box, I usually find myself just wanting the big experience. Gloomhaven Buttons and Bugs is a fine game. It's just, that's what it is. I'd rather play Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion. Like, this isn't even a dig against Gloomhaven. If you followed my channel, you know where I am. You know I've been on a high with Gloomhaven, then I burnt myself out on it. But I still think it's a great game to a large extent. I burnt myself out to the point that it's not my top 100. It's still a great game. Whereas the Gloomhaven Buttons and Bugs, anytime I touched it, I was like, I'd rather play Jaws of the Lion. It's a simpler, it's not simpler, it's a better version that is just as accessible and honestly not that expensive comparatively speaking. So ultimately, Gloomhaven Buttons and Bugs was a disappointment to me. Even though it's not bad, it's just I'd rather play Gloomhaven any day of the week. Anyways, from there we go to the favorite videos on my channel. These are my favorite videos on my channel, so the ones that I just like the most for one reason or another. Now coming in at number 5, we have ranking every CMON game. It's been a while since I did this in general, but I like going through, and I did another one with Awakened Realms that'll be coming up, but I just wanted to go through all my CMON titles, of all the ones I've played, which is most of them, but not all of them, just talking about where they all are for me. As much as I'm a huge fan of CMON titles, not all their games have stuck around. I usually am very excited, and then some of them I turn around and sell for more than what I paid for it, because their games hold their value, and the other ones I hold on to and enjoy a lot. And I've had a lot in both those camps. I mean, you can look behind me on the shelf, you'll see a whole lot of CMON behind you, and it's because I like their games. But ultimately, if you want to see a full listing of the games I liked and didn't like, the ones I don't even talk about because I played them once and moved on, that's all going to be in that video. We also have 3 questions to ask before backing a game. This is I try to do regular topical videos on ways to like back less or be mindful of how you spend. I'm not trying to encourage you not to back games. I mean, at the end of the day, like I work for GameFound, and from that side of things, like by all means, back everything you want. But also, like, my first responsibility to you as my audience is to you as my audience, not to GameFound. And so ultimately, I think you should be responsible with money. You should back accordingly. I don't think you shouldn't back things, but I think you should be careful what you back and make sure you can be happy with the end product, the end thing you get. You shouldn't regret backing a game a year and a half ago. You should be happy with what you got. Next up, we have Expeditions Gears of Corruption review. This is a review in which the Expeditions expansion came out, and I didn't love it. I thought it was an okay expansion that had some small rules fixes that are very helpful, and then some elements of gameplay that I didn't necessarily care for one way or the other. And again, the reason I like that is kind of similar to what I touched upon earlier in this video. I like it when I'm not hyping everything. And I love Expeditions. Expeditions is a great game. I'm a huge fan of it. I've played it so many times. I love the game. I cannot say enough good things about it. But it also means, like, I like the fact that sometimes, and ultimately it's just, ultimately I'm going to tell you the experience I had. If I love an expansion, I'll tell you I love the expansion. Like, Lost Ruins of Arnak, love the Expedition Leaders, it's great. Love Rise of Ix. There are great expansions out there. But ultimately, at the end of the day, in the case of Expeditions, I felt the expansion was more of a nice to have as opposed to anything super essential, and I like being able to have a tempered reaction to something I love, because I have both. I want to be excited when I'm excited, and I want to be tempered when I'm tempered. I just want to tell you like how it is. Coming at number 2, we have over here, the games I added to my collection. This is a new video series I was doing on the channel where I talk about the games that get added to my collection. I always talk about the games leaving, and you see reviews, but you don't necessarily see an itemized list of what I'm making the decision to add to my collection. It is a complicated series to do, right? Because sometimes it's not so much that I added a game, so much as I temporarily placed it there, or I'm having thoughts about whether to get it or not. But ultimately, I'm going to try to navigate as much as possible. There'll be things that slip up. Like, it's not going to be a perfect list. Like, now that you have games being added and games being leaving, in theory, you should be able to perfectly track what goes into my collection or not. In reality, I don't track everything. I don't log every play. Not every game goes on the right shelf sometimes. So there will be things that get missed. There'll be things that get missed. There'll be games that leave that I don't remember to tell you. There'll be games that get added that I forget about. But for the most part, this should give you a good picture of what's being added. And in general, people like this series, which I'm happy they did. That's why I do these videos. So hopefully you can watch them and enjoy them. And so in that sense, the video series so far has been off to a good start. And then lastly, we have thank you for always being here. This is a video I did when I was tired after a long bout of trips. I can't even remember, it was like a few weeks ago by now, but I had a lot of trips, a lot of travel. I was feeling behind on comments, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to film a video just talking about how I appreciate the fact that I'm here and have this job and have all of you here watching and all that. And I like those videos because they're kind of a semi-real connection. Like, it's hard to have a real connection over a camera. This is what conventions are great. If you ever see a convention, stop me, talk to me, whatever. Just the other day, I had someone stop me in the park. Someone recognized me. And by the way, if you're the person who stopped me in the park and you didn't email me yet, you should email me. I told you, like, I had my kids with me, so I talked for like 2 seconds, but I was like, I gotta go. I got my kids. Like, you know, I don't want to like spend too much time away from them. And so ultimately, I told him to email me so that we can play games together. And he hasn't done so yet, which is a crying shame. So you should do that if you haven't done so yet. Anyways, that's going to be the games, my favorite videos of mine on the channel, which brings you to my crowdfunding highlights. And this time around, we do have 5. Now, crowdfunding highlights are tricky because some of these are games that I don't plan on backing, but I plan on getting because I thought the campaign wasn't worth it, but the game has intrigued me. But ultimately, I'll still put it in crowdfunding highlights. Coming at number 5, we have One Hit Heroes. One Hit Heroes, coming to you from the same people who did 5 Minute Dungeon. Looks cool. I really like the idea of the game. It seems interesting, seems fun, fast-paced, and I've seen praise from the people who played it, so I am looking forward to hopefully the game that won in retail. Similarly, we have Keystone North America, the revised 2nd edition. I love Keystone, and I did not back the campaign specifically because I'm trying to have self-control. I do have hopes to pick it up in some way, shape, or form at some point, but I very much am a fan of Keystone North America, and so I do want the 2nd edition of it because, well, I like the best versions of the games I really like, and I do really like that game. Coming at number 3, we have Regicide Legacy, another game that I didn't see a good reason to back in the campaign, but I do plan on picking up in retail. I really enjoyed the Regicide game, and I'm looking forward to playing the Legacy version, because if you missed it from Charterstone, I tend to like cruising through Legacy games. Coming at number 2, we have How to Save a World. How to Save a World from KTBG. That's not, I keep doing that. From Burnt Island Games, sister companies. From Burnt Island Games, I really enjoyed How to Save a World. Looking forward to that one. And then coming in at number 1, we had Ironwood from Mind Clash. Ironwood's fantastic 2-player isometric game. Really enjoyed it. Looking forward to adding that one to my collection. And then lastly, we have the highlights of the month in general. These are just the gameplay highlights I've had. And starting at number 5, we have Hanamakoji. I got to play Hanamakoji this past week. My daughter asked to play it, and she played it like 2 years ago, and she saw it in the house. She's like, oh, we should play that game. And then I taught it to her again, because it's been 2 years. She didn't remember. But I taught it to her, and then she soundly beat me, which is great because my daughter's at the age now where she can just pick up a game and beat me as opposed to like slowly learning and getting better. And like, that's a game of skill that I was very happy to be trounced. It's a very fun moment for me. Honestly, this should be higher on my list. I don't know if I ordered these or not. No, I may have ordered them. But Hanamakoji is definitely a highlight for me. Coming at number 4, we have Charterstone. There's nothing quite like going through 12 games of Legacy game across 3 nights in a row and just powering through it. So that was definitely a good experience as well. Coming at number 3, we have 5 Tribes. I have not played 5 Tribes in so long. It's a game that I pull out maybe every year and a half, every 2 years. But every time I do, I'm like, I love this game. It's a fun, solid experience. It's a Mon-Cala game full of powers and abilities as you vie for area control and just every way you can score points possible. I think 5 Tribes is a delight. It's visually impressive. I have it all blinged out. It's a game that's been around my collection for a very long time. I don't anticipate it going anywhere anytime soon. Coming at number 2, we have Slay the Spire. It's a great game. Now, it is a game I'm going to play less often. Because of the fact that I play the video game, I definitely play video games. I definitely play that kind of game more with the video game form of it. But I still very much enjoy Slay the Spire in its tabletop form, and it is one that will get tabled. And then lastly, my number 1 experience for this month was definitely Primal The Awakening. I did get a chance to finally sit down and table it. I do not have a review for you yet because I want to go through the campaign, or at least part of the campaign, to be able to talk more about that aspect. But I did sit down and go through a few one-shots, and it is a good game. Just as good as I remember it. I really enjoyed the feeling of overcoming. It very much has a Spirit Island approach where everything you do, you're going to get smacked somehow, and the only question is how can you make sure to power one up over your opponent. I really like it, and I'm looking forward to building and developing a character as opposed to just having the static character that's there, although honestly, both are pretty solid. And that is your month in review. That is basically everything we got. Again, as always, links and timestamps to everything down below, and as usual, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you being here, and as always, my name is Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and I hope you have a good one.